It was a quiet afternoon at St. Mary's Children's Hospital. The air smelled faintly of disinfectant and crayons, as young patients painted pictures of hope on white paper walls. Nurses moved gently between rooms, checking charts and whispering soft encouragement. No one noticed the tall man stepping through the entrance, wearing faded jeans, a black hoodie, and a calm, humble expression. There were no cameras, no flashing lights, no reporters announcing his arrival. It was just Keanu Reeves carrying 2 paper bags filled with small toys and books he had bought from a nearby store. "Excuse me," he said softly to the receptionist, his voice kind but low. "I was wondering if I could visit some of the kids. I don't want to disturb anyone." The receptionist blinked twice, unsure if she was really looking at him. "Mr. Reeves? Are you?" He smiled gently. "Yes, but please, just call me Keanu." Within minutes, quiet whispers began to move through the halls. "Is that really him? Why is he here? He didn't bring a camera crew?" Keanu stood in the hallway holding small action figures and coloring books in his hands. "I heard some of the kids here are big movie fans," he said shyly to a nurse. "I just wanted to stop by. Maybe make them smile for a bit." The nurse couldn't hide her emotion. "They'll love that," she said, her eyes glistening. One by one, doors began to open. Tiny faces peeked out, some curious, some shy, some pale from long treatments. Keanu waved at them, crouching to their level. "Hey there, champ," he said to one boy with a bandaged arm. "You look stronger than me already." He moved quietly, gently, without any show or pride. Nurses noticed he never once mentioned his movies or fame. Instead, he asked about their dreams, what they wanted to be when they grew up. What made them laugh, what made them brave, and all along, the hospital's quiet security cameras captured these moments. The actor who came without a script, without an audience, only to bring a little light into a room filled with courage. But what those cameras later revealed moved millions to tears. The first room Keanu entered was softly lit, filled with the hum of medical machines and the faint laughter of cartoons playing on a small TV. 4 children sat in their hospital beds, each fighting battles their small bodies should never have to face. Keanu paused at the door, took a slow breath, and smiled. "Hey there," he said gently, knocking twice on the open door like a guest seeking permission to enter. The kids looked up, one of them gasped, eyes widening. You're John Wick." The room filled with shy giggles. Keanu chuckled, crouching beside a little boy who had lost all his hair. "Nah," he said playfully, rubbing his head. "Looks like you and I got the same haircut now. I think we're both the cool ones here." The boy burst out laughing, his mother wiping away tears at the sound of her child's first real laugh in weeks. Keanu began handing out small gifts, coloring books, stickers, a few action figures. But he didn't just give and go. He sat down beside each child, asked about their favorite superheroes, and listened, really listened. When one little girl said she wanted to be a nurse someday, Keanu nodded and said softly, "That's the real kind of hero." The nurses at the doorway watched in awe. This wasn't a celebrity visit for attention. There were no photographers, no rehearsed smiles. This was something real, raw kindness in motion. He stayed for nearly an hour, taking tiny Polaroid photos with the kids who wanted them, signing paper hearts with messages like, "Stay strong, little warrior." Then as he got up to leave, a small voice called out, "Mr. Keanu, can you stay a little longer?" He looked back, smiling. "For you? I've got all the time in the world." The entire room melted. Even the nurses turned away, wiping their eyes discreetly. Keanu sat back down, joining the kids as they started drawing. Soon he was covered in crayon doodles and laughter. Someone handed him a superhero cape made out of tissue paper. He wore it proudly, walking around the room as the kids cheered. Outside the door, staff gathered quietly, watching this unplanned magic unfold. One nurse whispered, "You can tell. This isn't for show," and she was right. Every word, every smile, every moment came from a place deeper than fame. A man who had known pain, now giving peace to those who needed it most. As he finally waved goodbye, the kids shouted, "Come back soon, John Wick." He grinned and said, "Only if you promise to be stronger when I do," and with that he left the room, not realizing that every second of his visit was being recorded quietly on the hospital's cameras. And what those cameras captured next would stun the world. As Keanu moved through the ward, A nurse gently tugged at his sleeve. "Mr. Reeves," she whispered, "there's one more child." But she hasn't smiled in months. Maybe you could try?" He nodded softly. "Of course. What's her name?" "Lila," the nurse said. "She's 8. Surgery went well, but she's been quiet ever since." Keanu took a deep breath before stepping into her room. The lights were dim, the curtains half drawn. Lila sat in bed clutching a worn-out teddy bear. Her eyes didn't lift when he entered. She didn't even glance at him. Keanu smiled gently and approached slowly, crouching down to her level. "Hey," he said softly, "I'm Keanu. I heard you're the toughest kid in this place." Silence. Lila stared at her bear. He sat cross-legged on the floor beside her bed. "You know, when I was your age, I used to think I was a superhero too. But I didn't have a cape. Or even superpowers. Still nothing." He glanced at her teddy bear. "What's his name?" After a long pause, she murmured, "Captain Bear? Captain Bear?" Keanu gasped dramatically. "No way. I think I've met him before. Didn't he help save me in John Wick 2? For the first time, her lips twitched. Just a flicker of a smile. Keanu caught it. "Aha, I knew it." "Captain Bear, you didn't tell her about our secret mission." He got up and pretended to search behind the curtain. "Oh no, the invisible ninjas are here again." He ducked, rolled, and made a funny ouch sound as he bumped his knee against the wall. Lila blinked, confused, then let out a small laugh. The sound was faint, but it carried through the room like sunlight breaking through clouds. Nurses in the hallway turned their heads, stunned. Her mother covered her mouth, tears streaming down her cheeks. Keanu looked up, pretending to whisper to the bear. "Captain, mission accomplished, and we got her to smile." Lila giggled again, this time louder. Keanu grinned, bowed dramatically, and handed her a small notebook. "For your next mission," he said. "You write the stories. I'll read them when I visit again." She held the notebook close and whispered, "Promise?" "Promise," he said softly, touching his heart. As Keanu stood to leave, Lila's mother approached him, voice trembling. "She hasn't smiled since her operation," she whispered. "Not once." Keanu nodded quietly. "She's stronger than any hero I've played," he replied, then added, "Sometimes all a person needs is someone who truly sees them." When he walked out, the hallway was silent and nurses watching with misty eyes. They had just witnessed something no movie could ever recreate. If you were in that room, what would you have said to Keanu Reeves? Tell us in the comments below, and let us know if this moment touched your heart too. Long after Keanu left Lila's room, the hallway still buzzed with a quiet, warm energy. The nurses couldn't stop talking about it, how one smile from a little girl had changed the entire mood of the ward. Even the security guard at the front desk was smiling for no reason at all. But what most people didn't know was that Keanu wasn't done yet. Instead of heading toward the exit, he quietly wandered deeper into the hospital. He passed through the staff area, waving gently at doctors and thanking them for their work. A janitor mopping the floor froze when Keanu stopped beside him. "Hey," Keanu said kindly. "Thank you for keeping this place clean, man. It smells better than my apartment." The janitor laughed nervously, unsure how to respond. "Mr. Reeves, I think it's supposed to smell clean, not like popcorn." Keanu grinned. "Then I've been doing it wrong my whole life," they both laughed. For a moment there were no stars, no fame, just two men talking like old friends in the middle of a quiet hospital corridor. After that, Keanu asked the janitor where the parents usually wait during long treatments. The man pointed toward a small, tired-looking waiting area near the corner of the floor. It was a plain room. White walls, dim lights, old coffee machine humming quietly. Inside, 3 parents sat slumped in silence, holding on to hope and exhaustion at the same time. Keanu didn't announce himself. He simply walked in, nodded politely, and sat down beside them. No cameras. No crowd, just presence. A mother looked up, startled. You're... Keanu raised his hand gently. "Just Keanu," he said. "How's your little one doing?" She sighed, her voice breaking. "We're still waiting for the doctor's update. It's been hard." Keanu leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and listened, really listened, for nearly 20 minutes. He didn't interrupt. He didn't offer empty comfort. He just let her speak her pain out loud, the way someone who understands loss does. When she finished, he softly said, "You're doing great. Your love is the strongest medicine they have. Never forget that." The woman began to cry. Without hesitation, Keanu took her hand in both of his and held it until she steadied her breath. Another parent whispered, "Why are you doing this?" He smiled faintly. Because sometimes kindness needs no reason. Later that evening, a nurse quietly followed him, pretending to fix a clipboard. She watched him stop by the donation office, signing a form and slipping an envelope into the counter tray. The staff later discovered it was a personal donation, enough to cover the next few months of treatment costs for underprivileged children. Before leaving, Keanu thanked every nurse, shook hands with the janitor again, and smiled at the receptionist who had first met him. "You've got superheroes working here," he said sincerely. "I just came to say thank you." Then, without any goodbye announcement, he slipped out through the side door into the fading sunset. No interviews. No social media posts. No headlines, but what Keanu didn't realize was that the hospital's quiet security cameras had captured everything, from the laughter in the children's ward to the tears in the waiting room, and those unseen moments were about to travel far beyond the hospital walls. The sun had begun to dip low over the city skyline, casting golden light through the hospital windows. After nearly 4 hours inside, Keanu Reeves had quietly visited every floor, met dozens of children, and shared hundreds of smiles. He was tired, but it wasn't the kind of tired that came from exhaustion. It was the weight of emotion, the ache of seeing so much courage in small, fragile hearts. As he reached the lobby, a nurse walked beside him, almost in disbelief. "You stayed much longer than we expected," she said softly. "You've made their day. You've made our year." Keanu smiled faintly. "They made mine," he replied. "Those kids, they're stronger than any of us." He stopped near the exit, turning to glance one last time at the colorful hallway lined with children's drawings, crooked rainbows, stick figure heroes, and shaky hearts that read, "Be brave." One little boy ran up, holding out a drawing of himself and Keanu holding toy swords. "For you," the boy said proudly. Keanu knelt down and took the drawing carefully as though it were gold. "This is perfect," he whispered. "Can I keep it forever?" The boy nodded, beaming. Keanu folded the picture neatly, tucking it into his jacket pocket close to his heart. As he stood, a nurse asked, "Would you like a picture before you go?" He shook his head. "No need. Let's just keep this between us." He was almost at the door when the head nurse, wiping her eyes, said quietly, "Thank you for reminding us why we do what we do." He smiled warmly. "Thank you for being the real heroes. I just borrowed your cape for a few hours." Everyone laughed softly. It was the kind of laughter that felt like healing. Outside, the evening breeze greeted him. He took a deep breath, feeling peace, the kind he rarely found in Hollywood or fame. But then, as he crossed the parking lot, something caught his eye. A woman sat alone in her car, her head resting on the steering wheel. Her shoulders trembled. Keanu hesitated for a moment and then walked over quietly and tapped gently on her window. She startled, then rolled it down, wiping her tears. "Ma'am, are you okay?" he asked softly. She blinked, surprised to see him. My daughter's in there. They said she might not make it through the night," she whispered. Without saying a word, Keanu crouched down beside her car and listened. For 10 full minutes she talked, about her little girl, about the fear, the hope, the sleepless nights. Keanu never interrupted. He just listened, nodding gently, his eyes reflecting genuine empathy. When she finished, he said quietly, "You're not alone. She feels your strength every second, and sometimes the smallest bit of love can do what medicine can't." She began to cry again, this time not from despair, but release. Keanu reached into his jacket and pulled out a small charm bracelet one of the children had given him earlier. "Your daughter gave me hope today," he said, handing it to her. "Maybe this can give some back." She took it with trembling hands. "Thank you," she whispered. He smiled and replied, "Don't thank me. Thank her. She's still fighting." When Keanu finally walked away, the woman stayed in her car, holding that bracelet tight, whispering a silent prayer. Later that night, hospital staff would tell the story, how Keanu Reeves, the quiet movie star, had knelt beside a stranger's car long after his visit had ended. No cameras, no script, just humanity in its purest form. And unknown to him, the hospital security footage had recorded that moment too, the one that would touch millions when it surfaced. because sometimes the most powerful scenes are the ones no one was meant to see. A few days passed. The children's hospital returned to its usual rhythm. The beeping of machines, the soft murmur of nurses, the laughter of brave little souls. To most, Keanu Reeves's visit had been a beautiful memory, tucked quietly into their hearts. But then, something unexpected happened. Late one evening, a young intern on the hospital's security team was reviewing footage from the previous week. It was part of his routine check, ensuring that cameras had recorded properly during the celebrity's visit. He clicked through the files absent-mindedly, until one clip made him stop. It showed Keanu in the children's ward, crouching beside the little girl named Lila. There was no sound, just the moving images. Him pretending to fight invisible ninjas, the girl's faint laugh, her mother crying silently in the background. The intern watched, frozen. Then he scrolled further. Footage of Keanu helping the janitor clean a spill, holding a grieving mother's hand, laughing with nurses, slipping an envelope into the donation tray. It wasn't a show. It wasn't a PR stunt. It was raw humanity. The intern called in the head nurse, then the chief of staff. Within hours, nearly the entire hospital had gathered around a monitor in the break room, watching in silence. By the end of it, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. "Should we release this?" one nurse whispered. The head nurse hesitated. He didn't want cameras, but maybe the world needs to see what real kindness looks like. After some discussion, they decided to share a short, anonymous clip online. No names, no captions, no headlines. Just a video titled "The Quiet Hero in the Children's Hospital." Within 24 hours, it had over 10 million views. People all over the world began commenting, "Whoever this man is, he deserves the world." That's what humanity looks like. Faith in people restored. But it didn't take long before someone recognized him. A still frame captured his gentle smile as he held a child's drawing. Wait, that's Keanu Reeves. And just like that, the internet exploded. Major news outlets picked up the story. Kindness like Keanu began trending across platforms. Fans from every country shared their own encounters with him. Small stories of generosity, humility, and compassion. One fan wrote, "He once paid for a stranger's repairs after an accident. He doesn't do it for attention. It's just who he is." Another shared, "I met him at an airport years ago. He carried my grandmother's suitcase when no one else offered. Soon the hospital confirmed the truth, yes. Keanu Reeves had visited quietly without media, without requests, simply to bring joy to children." Keanu himself didn't even know what had gone viral until his assistant showed him the headlines a few days later. He read silently, scrolling through endless praise, his eyes soft with humility. "I didn't want it to be about me," he murmured. "It was about them." When a reporter finally asked for a statement, Keanu hesitated for a moment, then said softly, "I didn't do anything special. I just visited some kids who made me feel alive again. Kindness doesn't need an audience." His words hit like thunder across social media. Videos poured in from hospitals worldwide. Doctors, nurses, and volunteers inspired by his example, visiting children, comforting families, donating quietly. One message stood out from a nurse in Brazil. He reminded us that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear old boots and carry coloring books. The hospital received hundreds of letters, donations, and thank you cards addressed to Uncle Keanu. Some were drawn in crayon, some written shakily by children in recovery. Lila's mother sent one last update that brought the world to tears. Lila's condition had improved. She wrote, "He didn't just make her smile. He gave her strength to fight again." And so, the world watched, united for a brief, beautiful moment, by a simple act of compassion caught accidentally on camera. Do you think this was one of the most genuine acts of kindness ever seen? Type yes, if you believe humanity still has heroes like Keanu Reeves. The world couldn't stop talking about it. The quiet footage of Keanu Reeves, kneeling beside hospital beds, comforting grieving parents, cleaning up spills, and leaving donations, had spread like wildfire. Within days, news anchors were describing it as the most touching celebrity moment of the decade. But Keanu himself stayed silent. No press release, no interviews. He carried on with his life as if nothing had happened, riding the subway, helping fans on the street, signing autographs humbly, always smiling that same gentle smile. Yet behind the scenes, his team's inbox was flooded. Hospitals invited him to visit. Charities offered to collaborate. Schools asked him to speak to students about kindness and humility. He politely declined them all. One reporter finally caught up to him outside a cafe in Los Angeles. "Mr. Reeves?" she asked, microphone trembling in her hand. "How do you feel about being called the world's kindest actor?" Keanu paused. His gaze drifted toward the busy street, where a mother was helping her son tie his shoelaces. He smiled faintly and said, "I think the world already has enough kind people. They're just not being recorded." Those words, calm, simple, and true, became the headline that defined him once again. Kindness means the most when no one's watching. Soon, more stories resurfaced. Fans shared moments of meeting him, how he waited in the rain to sign autographs, gave up his seat to strangers, or quietly donated millions to cancer research. Every story seemed to connect back to the same core truth. Keanu Reeves wasn't performing. He was living what he believed. Meanwhile, the hospital from his visit was transformed. Donations poured in from around the globe, over $2 million raised in a single week. New playrooms were built, medical equipment was upgraded, and families who couldn't afford treatment suddenly found hope again. In one special moment, captured weeks later, a nurse wheeled Lila, the little girl who hadn't smiled, into a new, colorful playroom built in Keanu's honor. On the wall was a simple plaque that read, "Dedicated to the children who teach us courage." And to the man who reminded us of kindness. Lila smiled wide as she pointed to it. "That's my friend," she said proudly. Her mother nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yes, sweetheart. That's your friend." Keanu later heard about it from a nurse who sent him a photo. In it, Lila was smiling again, healthy, glowing, clutching her teddy bear and the notebook he had given her. Keanu replied with a short message. "Tell her she's the real hero. And that Captain Bear owes me another mission." The nurse printed that message and hung it beside Lila's bed. As weeks passed, the viral moment turned into something bigger, a global movement. Schools started kindness days. Social media challenges encouraged people to do one good deed without recording it. Across continents, people were tagging posts with "Be like Keanu," not to idolize him, but to remember what he stood for. It wasn't about fame. It wasn't about movies. It was about heart. Then one evening, Keanu finally addressed the world during a charity livestream. Sitting in a simple chair, wearing his usual black jacket and calm expression, he said softly, "I've made movies about heroes who fight with weapons, but real heroes fight with kindness. If one small act can make a child smile or give someone hope, then that's the kind of world worth fighting for." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "No one should be judged by appearance, status, or fame. We all have the power to make someone's day better. That's the real victory." His words were shared millions of times within hours, translated into dozens of languages, quoted by celebrities and used in classrooms, churches, and charity videos around the world. For once, the internet agreed on something. Humanity still had heroes, not the kind who fly or fight, but the kind who show up quietly, give their time, and leave behind warmth that never fades. And at the center of it all stood a man who never asked for attention, never demanded praise, a man who simply believed in doing good. If you believe the world needs more people like Keanu Reeves, people who lead with compassion, humility, and love, type kindness in the comments and share this story to inspire others.